I'm Becca. Welcome to my Fluid Art channel. Today we're going to be learning how to paint this wacky, zany, fun sunflower. This is one of my favorite techniques. It is a fluid art painting using the dip technique. And let me tell you, this one was a challenge. One of my subscribers, Colleen, hey Colleen, challenged me to do this painting of a sunflower. And I thought, sure, I can do that, no problem. Well, let me tell you, it proved to be a lot more challenging than I expected it to be. But I persisted through the difficulties, and I'm very happy with how this turned out. So stay tuned, and I'll show you how to make your very own wacky, zany, beautiful, fun, full of life sunflower. Today we are working on a 12-inch by 12-inch canvas, and I have it on a spinner just to make for ease of getting to the different sides of the canvas that I need. This here is an open cup, a very large size open cup that I'm going to be using as a perimeter. I also have a couple of different size palette knives that I'm going to be using to swipe the inside section of the sunflower. And then I have a variety of different triangle shaped paper towel cuts. I am just using some regular kitchen paper towel. This is what I'm using here, and it's the kind that has half sheets. So I ripped off several half sheets, and then I'm stacking them together, and I will cut some irregular triangular shaped pieces that I'll be using for my dip. This technique, perhaps more importantly than any other fluid art technique, it is super important to make sure that your canvas is level. I am going to be starting with a very dark, custom dark brown that I mixed up for my base. This is a variety of several different colors, but mostly a very dark brown and a little bit of black mixed in. The brown that I was using was somewhat transparent, and I really like it when my bases are a little bit more opaque, and I wanted this to be very dark, so I mixed in a little bit of black. I am using the hair dryer to move the paints around because I really want this base to be very thin. And then I'm using my fingers just to cover the edges. I'm using my blowtorch to get out any last minute bubbles, and then I am going to place my open cup perimeter right in the middle. Now, when I say that I'm using it as a perimeter, the goal is to keep any of the paints that I'm pouring on the outside, which is going to be a variety of yellows, orange, and a little bit of red. I want to keep that from getting into the center. Sunflowers, unlike a lot of other flowers, have a very large center. So one of the biggest challenges with this piece is just to make sure that the center doesn't have any other paint in it from the petals. When I initially tried to do this technique using the paper towel like I did the others, it pulled way too much paint into the center, and I didn't have that open center feeling that I had with the others. Truth be told, it took me several tries, maybe 4 or 5 different tries, to figure out how to get this technique to look right. But I am really, really happy with how this turned out, and I think it's probably pretty easy to do once you know how to do it. So I do encourage you to give this a try, especially if you love sunflowers, you love painting flowers. This one is really not too difficult to do, just a little bit time consuming, which, you know, making art, time can get away from you, and it's like you get transported to a different world where everything else disappears. It's one of my favorite things to do. My family told me I was in my studio for a very long time when I was making this, and I didn't even realize how much time had gone by. So I just was pouring the yellow. This is a group 1, very light yellow, that is primary yellow mixed with a lot of Amsterdam titanium white. And this is going to be the color that is under all the other colors that will create the cells once I do the dip. I started with the colors being heavier on the inside and pulling them to the outside, and then in between each of those lines I did a section that was a little heavier on the outside and moved towards the inside to create some variety and depth, because sunflowers are not just perfectly shaped leaves that go all around the edges. There's a lot of overlapping and layering in sunflowers, which I really wanted to get that look in this painting. The next color that I'm putting down here is also yellow. This is mostly primary yellow mixed with a little bit of that orange and white. And this is a group 2 color. So I'm laying this over the group 1 color, and when I do the dip, it will help to create cells. The two yellows are pretty close, and you might be wondering why I'm doing two colors that are so close in color. But really, the goal is to have some group 1 and group 2 layered over each other to get those special effects. After laying all of the colors down on the outside to create those petals, I remove the open cup center perimeter, and I'm very pleased with how tightly it held that circle. I'm going to send the canvas for a little spin just so I can move some of the paints toward the outside and have larger, more vibrant petals that flow to the outside of the canvas. Okay, it is time for the dip. As you can see, I'm using those triangular shaped paper towel pieces to create one petal at a time. This process is a little bit tedious, but also very satisfying, and just kind of requires you to slow down. Don't go too fast, don't lay them down there and rip them up. You want to let the paint kind of absorb into that paper towel for a few seconds, and then just not necessarily slowly, but just deliberately lifting it off from the outside edge toward the inside and then pulling it up off the canvas. As you can see there, as it sits and as the paints have time to react, That lighter yellow group 1 color is creating cells. It starts to look as if the petals are laying on top of each other, creating depth and dimension to this painting. I'm going to go ahead and just turn on the music and let you enjoy this process of dipping and pulling up and watching the petals kind of create themselves. Stay tuned because there's a lot more embellishing coming to this painting, and I want you to see the whole process so you can make one for yourself. this point, I really wasn't happy with how uneven that center circle had become, so I decided to swipe it and try to get that center circle to become even, and I ended up making it worse. So I swiped the center again. I didn't like it. I ended up putting on the open cup tool again and then tried to create some more yellow around the outside of that perimeter, and it made it worse. So I was at the point here where I was like, you know what? I think I need to scrape this canvas and try again. I turned off the cameras, was about ready to scrape it, and then I had an idea. I had some leftover triangular pieces of paper towel, so I cut them in half and I used them to re-dip the yellow area that just didn't look right. And I have to say, I was really pleased with these results. It gave even more depth and layering to the petals of the sunflower. After several days of drying, I took my favorite detail brushes from Zen Art Supplies, which I will drop the link in the description of this video if you're interested in purchasing some for yourself. And I added some detail to the petals. They were layered and they had some transparency and they were really cool the way they were, but it wasn't quite giving me those sunflower vibes. So I went in with some of the more detailed brushes and just added some shadowing behind some of the petals to create some more depth. Then, using a round brush and some very, very light yellow, which actually looks white in this video, I added some highlights to the petals where I've added some depth and dimension. And finally, using an angled brush, I painted in some more pointed tips on some of the petals. And as a final step to the detailing, I used my detail brushes to add some texture to the center of the sunflower. You know how it has all those seeds in it? It's not flat, it's very raised and textured. I really wanted to capture that look using the depth and dimension of colors and texture inside the sunflower. And after all that detail work, I finally call the painting complete. And isn't she lovely? If you enjoyed this and found this video helpful, you've got to check out my playlist for reverse flower dips. That is coming up next.